seventh day, we have an insightful session lined up for you on penetration testing techniques. It is an absolute honor to introduce today's esteemed speaker, Dr. Nidhi Malik. Dr. Nidhi is an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the North Cap University, Gurugram. She is also the program lead for MCA and AI/ML specialization, bringing over 15 years of rich experience in teaching, research, and academic administration. Throughout her career, Dr. Malik has been a mentor and guide to many students. She has supervised more than 40 BTech projects and 10 MTech theses, and she is currently supervising 6 PhD scholars. Her contributions to the academic community include authoring the book Inter-Schema Transformations 2017 and editing text mining approaches for biomedical data 2024. Dr. Malik's research focuses on machine learning, NLP, deep learning, and semantic web technologies. She has published over 35 research articles in reputed journals and international conferences, along with 5 Indian patents and 7 book chapters. She holds prestigious certifications from AWS, Microsoft, and Coding Ninjas. Her expertise and dedication to the field make her a valuable resource for today's session. Apart from her research and teaching, Dr. Malik is an active contributor to the academic community. She has delivered numerous expert talks at faculty development programs and has chaired sessions at Springer and IEEE conferences. She has also been an external expert for question paper setting, subject evaluations, and project assessments at various universities. With her vast experience in cybersecurity and research, Dr. Nidhi will now take us through today's session on penetration testing techniques. This session will provide hands on insights on identifying vulnerabilities, ethical hacking techniques, and securing systems against potential threats. I'm sure it will be an enlightening and interactive discussion. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nidhi Malik. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible to you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So it is my privilege to be an expert speaker for the faculty development program on digital forensics for innovators, leveraging open source in cyber investigations. This is an opportunity that is allowing me to share insights on the key aspects of modern cybersecurity, the importance of open source security tools that are available within the field, and there is increased sophistication in the cyber investigation area. So I look forward to an engaging discussion, knowledge exchange, and wish to contribute to the overall development of the participants who have joined for this FDP. So my topic for today's presentation is penetration testing techniques. Ishika, please confirm my screen is visible to you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is going to be the flow of the presentation. So these are the contents that I'll be discussing throughout the talk. The basics of penetration testing, the types of penetration techniques that are available, which are different techniques that are used, what are the common vulnerabilities that occur in penetration testing techniques, which are different tools and frameworks that are there, along with the case studies and some real world examples from all over the world, and some best practices and compliances that should be followed while performing the penetration testing techniques. So as we all understand, theme of the FDP is the cybersecurity theme. So from the cybersecurity theme, we are going to discuss the penetration testing techniques. So the importance of cybersecurity is not hidden from anybody. We are in an era where personal information is, you all will agree, personal information is increasingly collected. We all are all the time using network. The personal information is increasingly collected. It is stored and shared digitally. So cybersecurity is very crucial to preserve the privacy of the people who are constantly using the network and doing certain tasks. So when our personal information is so much available online, there is a high risk factor associated with it. So unauthorized access, surveillance, and misuse is very risky factor, and all of us need to maintain the privacy, and we should be having trust in the digital services that are there, because none of us can escape from using the digital services. All of us have to use them. So there has to be some trust when we are using the digital services. So, technically speaking, definition wise, if we talk of cybersecurity, it refers to the practice of protecting computer systems, network, devices, and data from the threat of cyber crimes, unauthorized access, attacks, or the damage that can be there with our personal information. It involves implementing the technologies, the processes, and practices to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of digital assets. Obviously, all of us are using internet. All of us want to ensure that our private information, personal information is kept confidential. Even if we are doing certain tasks online, we are filling up our personal information, but all of us desire to have that confidentiality should be there, integrity should be there when we are speaking of digital assets. So there are certain aspects of cybersecurity which are again contained in the definition itself: confidentiality, integrity, availability, and so that we can ensure that the system and the data which is available is accessible to only the authorized users, and that also when it is needed, not otherwise. There are different components when we talk of cyber security. First of all is network security, so that we are able to protect our network is protected from the cyber threats. All of us keep on reading online, also in print media also, that cyber attacks keep on happening around the globe, somewhere at a place or another. There are various cyber attacks that keep on happening, so network should be safe from the cyber threats. The information which is there, it should be prevented so that no unauthorized access has been made to the information. The applications that we are using, they should be secure from the vulnerabilities that might occur. Cloud is very important nowadays. Most of the organization are using cloud services, so it is very important to safeguard the cloud based system and the data that is contained over there. All the endpoint devices, the devices that we are using, the computers, the mobile phones, it is an age of IoT devices. So all of these, the endpoint security has to be ensured. All these aspects all together makes the importance of cyber attacks. These are very crucial aspects which are to be considered when planning or when making solutions to provide security in the cyber domain. So penetration testing is a key component when we talk of cybersecurity. It is also known as pen testing, another name for penetration testing. It is a simulated, we can say it is a simulated cyber attack on a computer system or a network or an application to evaluate its security. The primary goal here is to identify different vulnerabilities that the malicious hackers could exploit, so that necessary security measures can be recommended. It is a very vital cybersecurity practice which improves the security and also comply with the industry regulations. Please note it that it is very important for such a practical aspect to comply with the industry regulations, because data is used by each and everybody. So compliance is very important, and it has to be performed by qualified cybersecurity professionals only, who are possessing the necessary technical expertise, the ethical knowledge that what should be done and what should not be done, and they have that proper authorization, not otherwise. It is not to be done by anybody. or everybody. It has to be done by qualified cybersecurity professionals. So vulnerabilities are many when we talk of cybersecurity. There has to be certain assessment. Risks are should be managed. Risks should be identified properly, and there should be mechanism to manage those risks. The security flows that are there in the network or the application or for in the infrastructure for that matter, it becomes very helpful to for the organizations. They can prioritize the risks and they can implement the mitigation strategies as well. You must have heard of the regulatory requirements, the compliances, and all. We all are aware of this ISO standard. Most of you have heard of this ISO standard. So many industries require regular penetration testing for compliance with standards like ISO. ISO, if we talk of the full thing, ISO is Information Security Management. Information international. It is an international standard for information security management systems, particularly ISO 27001. It provides, we can say, it provides a framework for organizations to manage and protect sensitive information systematically through various risk management and security controls. So industries have to comply with these standards. Another one that is mentioned over here is PCI DSS. All of us make use of certain cards for performing transactions. So PCI is Payment Card Industry. DSS stands for Data Security Standard. Many of us keep on hearing about various transaction frauds that happen. Sometimes cards are cloned, sometimes passwords are cracked, or many such forms of attacks that keep on happening. So these are the regulatory requirements, standard regulatory requirements. Many industries prefer to have these requirements for penetration testing. So this PCI DSS, which is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, this is particularly for handling the credit card transactions. This standard ensures that the processing of the card is secure, storage and transmission of the cardholder data is secured so that we can prevent the frauds and breaches, etc. It is very important to have knowledge about these. Another standard that is mentioned over here is GDPR. GDPR is for General Data Protection Regulation. General Data Protection Regulation. This is basically a EU, European Union Data Protection Law. So it also is related to the uh, collection and processing of the personal information that we supply when that we uh, uh, you know fill up when we are using online resources. So this is European Union standard. It it actually gives control to the individuals so that they can have some control when they share their personal information. And if these standards are not followed, then a heavy penalty can be imposed for non-compliance of this standard. Another one is related to the health regulatory, which is HIPAA. This is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability. This is an act, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. This is governed by the US government. This is a US regulation, you can say, that protects the health information whenever we go for any checkups or any procedures, any surgeries, or anything. So, this is particularly for the healthcare providers and the insurers. Most of us take this health insurance and plans. So, this is for health uh, regulation, protected health regulation, so that the personal information is kept confidential and integrity is retained, and the personal information of the patients is not circulated, is not made available to the general usage for the general usage. So each of these standards actually play a very crucial role in securing the sensitive information in different domains like health and all the car transactions, the PCI DSS for that matter. So the organization should meet these requirements so that legal penalties can be avoided, right? Then we have network security testing for assessing the security within the firewalls, the routers, and other components which are there within the network, so that their weaknesses can be determined and suitable action can be taken. So real world attacks can be simulated, like for infrastructure and all. You must have seen in your organizations and other places where you work for, that drills are performed for real time testing. So real world attacks can be simulated so that proper defense mechanism can be prepared for avoiding these cyber threats. Another one is your web and application security. You must have heard of SQL injections. There are certain security loopholes like SQL injection. So SQL injection is nothing but a web security vulnerability where an attacker is going to inject a malicious SQL query into the input field so that the database can be manipulated, right? And if the database is manipulated, then unauthorized access can be gained by anybody. Data can be leaked, or this data can be modified, or critical information might get lost if there is such attack of like SQL injection. Another is cross-site scripting, XSS. So again, the malicious scripts can be injected into the web pages by some random user. It can be done to steal information, to steal sensitive data, or session cookies for that matter. And unauthorized actions can be performed on someone else's behalf on the data. There can be authentication flaws, etc. Authentication flows are nothing but bypassing of the login mechanism. And if the login mechanism is bypassed, unauthorized access can be attained by the person who is bypassing. So, and how this can occur? How can we bypass the authentication mechanism? When we have weak passwords, we are handling the sessions improperly. Weak passwords can be like we are always suggested. You must have seen certain ads and all that do not keep passwords which are very easy to be guessed. You should not keep passwords which are related directly to your date of birth and all. So multi-factor authentication can be used to prevent all these things, or we can have a password uh, which is secure. You must have heard of these suggestions that you get when passwords are set, that you should have a small combination of small letter, some capital letter, some special character, and one number, so that this combination becomes difficult to break. And it is not easy to bypass the authentication mechanism. To bypass it would become difficult for any random user to crack the password. So generally, by talking all of this, we should understand that each of these vulnerabilities, if they occur in our system, if they occur in our network, they can have serious security consequences if they are not properly mitigated, right? So security best security practices should be followed to avoid all of these. We should have proper response and security improvement. uh, we can achieve this by simulating various kinds of attack. We can refine the security policies so that the system becomes resilient towards the cybersecurity attacks. We can have certain phishing related simulations as well, or there can be various social engineering attacks. So gaps should be identifiable. We should be able to identify gaps in the security awareness. There should be certain training programs that should be held for the people using the network and all, so that it becomes uh, easy and everybody understand their responsibility. Many of the attacks are also due to lack of awareness among the people who are using. So penetration testing and ethical hacking both are somebody some people might be using the terms interchangeably. However, there are uh, certain differences in terms of their scope, in terms of their objectives and methodologies. So both of these are actually related to security assessment. So ethical hacking, if we say, is a broader term for security assessment, which covers all the attack vectors, whereas penetration testing specifically focuses on the testing vulnerabilities, and that too in a very controlled manner. Overall, if we talk of security posture, then we are concerned with the ethical hacking part. And through controlled attacks, if we have to identify the vulnerabilities, then we are talking of penetration testing. For ethical hacking, we can have multiple techniques like social engineering and all. And in penetration technique, a structured approach like PTES and OWASP is followed. So PTES is penetration testing execution standard, PTES. Anybody who is specifically from the cyber domain would be getting this term, penetration testing execution standard. This is again a framework which provides guide, which is actually illustrating the guidelines and the methodologies which should be followed for performing penetration testing. OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. So this is a non-profit organization that actually focuses on improving the web application security. OWASP name itself is Open Web Application Security Project. It provides resources such as OWASP Top 10, and it highlights the most critical aspects which are related to security risks for web applications, and their mitigation strategies as well. So it provides all the details related to that. Ethical hacking, in fact, is a continuous process which improves the security, whereas penetration testing is a specific test which is conducted within a fixed timeline. There are certain tools like Nmap, Wireshark, Social Engineering Toolkit, and all, which are used for ethical hacking. For penetration testing, we make use of Burp Suite, Nessus, SQL Map, Kali Linux. Many of you might have used this Kali Linux platform. These are some of the important aspects which should be followed, which should be understood, so that we have a better understanding of the cruciality of the penetration testing technique, that it identifies the security vulnerabilities, means we are able to detect the weak points in the system before the attackers find them out. We should be able to identify the security vulnerabilities. Another is we should be able to enhance the security measures based on the penetration testing results. We should be actually, overall aim is to enhance the security measures so that attackers cannot attack. There should be compliance with the regulations. Many industries like finance and healthcare, they require pen testing to meet legal and regulatory standards. Like I told you before, GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS. Most of the health insurance providers would be following their standards, which should be followed for ensuring the compliance and to retain in the market. Financial loss can be prevented if we are able to avoid any data breaches, the cyber and all the cyber attacks that lead to financial and otherwise damage also, if we are able to prevent them. So pen testing is going to minimize all those risks, and business continuity is ensured by preventing cyber threats, so that operations are performed without any sort of disruption. If we talk in context of the attacks that are happened in Indian context, you must have heard of the Aadhaar data breaches. There were many reports that had surfaced earlier about the Aadhaar data being leaked due to certain flaws in the security mechanism. So if there was a robust penetration testing approach, if it was followed, then that could have been prevented. The unauthorized access could have been prevented. Another one in context of India was the Cosmos Bank cyber attack, which happened in 2018. So hundreds of crores of rupees from ATMs worldwide. If we talk in terms of total losses, financial losses. So hackers made use of certain malwares to steal hundreds of crores of rupees from the ATMs. There were certain reports of data leaks from many government portal. Sensitive citizen data was exposed. So ethical hacking and security audits, if were in place, it could have been prevented. Certain breaches could have been prevented. Many of Indian businesses, like in 2021, Air India suffered a major data breach, which affected 4.5 millions approximately of the passengers. uh, because of certain security gaps, if they could have been identified beforehand, so it would have been uh, prevented this security data breach. So there are various techniques which are followed for performing the penetration testing. There are many techniques in software engineering as well. You must have studied different methods of penetration, software testing techniques you must have heard of. So for performing penetration testing techniques, there are variety of techniques. First one is the black box testing, where the tester who is testing the system has no prior knowledge of the system. The tester is treating the system as a black box, and an attack is simulated from an external hacker. So the focus here is on identification of all the external vulnerabilities. Whereas in case of white box testing, a tester is aware of the overall system, which includes the source code on which the system is built, the architecture, different components that are part of that architecture. The tester has complete knowledge of the entire system. The focus here is on deeper security flaws, or there are some logic vulnerabilities that might exist in the system. So white box testing goes into much depth while testing the system. Another kind of testing technique is gray box testing, where the user is somewhat aware of the system, might be having information about the login credentials, or we have different kinds of accesses that can be there on a system. So the person might be having certain kind of access to the system. If not fully, then he has somewhat uh, some form of access to the system. Network penetration testing is there, which is concerned with the vulnerabilities in the network infrastructure, such as the firewalls or the routers or the server. So it can be external. There are many public facing assets, or it can be internal as well, inside the organization also. Another is web application penetration testing that I just mentioned in the initial slides. The testing of the web applications for the security flaws like the SQL injection, the cross-site scripting and authentication bypass, weak passwords and all. Wireless penetration testing can be there. We can examine the wireless network for vulnerabilities. There can be weak encryption mechanism that might have been followed, or there are many unauthorized access points which can be there on the wireless network, so they can be tested. Social engineering testing can be performed. Social engineering testing in the way that how it need to be evaluated, that how employees respond to the phishing attacks. Phishing attacks can be via various means. Emails can be phished, messages can be fixed. uh, uh, how the employees respond to the phishing attacks, pre-texting or certain baiting techniques that are used by cyber criminals. There can be physical penetration testing as well, in which the testing is focused on assessing the physical security of the data centers, the offices, or other facilities in terms of infrastructure that are there, so that unauthorized access can be prevented. So, when we talk of penetration testing, there are certain common vulnerabilities that are there. So, main purpose should be to identify these vulnerabilities before the attackers exploit them. There has to be some proactive security approach that can be combined with the regular testing thing, so that organizations are helped in a way that they stay ahead of the threats. The organization should be able to identify the threat before the cyber attacker identifies them. If we are able to identify or able to address these common vulnerabilities or weaknesses, we can say that the overall functioning of the system can be improved, and which is in turn going to result in improved business. with a very good overall security posture. So there are various issues, various vulnerabilities that are there. There are some default passwords that are being used by people. There are weak passwords. There is lack of multi-factor authentication. What is multi-factor authentication? Anybody having any idea about lack of about this multi-factor authentication? Anyone? So again, this is related to the authentication, that anybody having access to the system should have multi-factor authentication. The name itself is suggesting that users should be verifying their identity using two or more authentication factors before they are provided access to the system. There can be many factors, and multi-factor authentication, MFA, typically fall into three categories. Number first is something you know, the passwords or the pins or security questions that are set. When you are using net banking, there are security questions asked. So first thing is something you know. Another thing is something you have, like the OTP, one time password, which is sent to a phone or smart card or a security token, you can say. And third thing is something you are, like the biometric authentication. Biometric authentication, like your fingerprints, facial recognition, the retinal scans, right? So multi-factor authentication should be performed so that the authorization is not bypassed. So for multi-factor authentication, there are three factors that I told you. First is something you know, another is something you have, and third is something you are. The passwords and the pins, the OTP, something you have, and something you are. The features that are specific to the person only, like the fingerprint, the facial recognition, the retinal scan. So multi-factor authentication should be employed because it is any which way going to reduce the risk of unauthorized access. Even if one of the factor is compromised, if the password is compromised, but if we have multi-factor authentication, nobody can have your retinal scan, nobody can have your fingerprints, nobody can have your OTP. So even if one of the factors is compromised, still your security is ensured because you are at least risk, right? So, and good password strategies should be followed. Whenever you enter a password at any public form or public website or portal, you are given suggestion. Whenever you fix a password, you are shown that strength of the password is good, it is weak. So good password management practices should be followed, right? These are the mitigation strategies that I just discussed. With all of these, we should implement strong password policies, we should enforce multi-factor authentication, and there should be regularly audit authentication mechanisms. You must have observed that when we are using these banking facilities, we are reminded every 3 months or 6 months that you need to reset your password. Another common vulnerability which is encountered is misconfigured security settings, that the databases and the cloud storage is unsecured. There are improperly configured firewalls, and access control mechanisms are not properly followed. Various user privileges are given. There is excessive usage of privileges, right? So the solutions for these are regularly security audit should be there. Another is principle of least privilege, POLP. Anybody having any idea of POLP? POLP actually is a security concept that states that users or the applications or the systems should be granted the minimum level of access which is necessary to perform their tasks. Principle of least privilege. The users, the systems should be granted only the minimum level of access which is necessary to perform their tasks, right? it anyways is going to reduce the overall attack surface. The the potential damage would be less, right, if unnecessary privileges are not granted, right? uh, Unauthorized access would be prevented. Insider threats would also be minimized if we are not going to grant privilege to each and everyone, and compliances will be improved, right? So these are certain mitigation strategies that should be followed for misconfigured security settings. Another is outdated softwares that are used and unpatched systems. So there might be many known vulnerabilities in third party softwares. So regular software regularly should be updated and patching should be done. Automated scanning should be done, right? And critical patches should be prioritized immediately as and when known. Encryption mechanism that is being employed is weak, so data protection is at risk. So why does this happen? Sensitive data sometimes is stored in the form of plain text, or the encryption protocols are outdated. There are poorly followed key management practices. So mitigation strategies would be to encrypt the sensitive data. There should be proper tight secure encryption mechanism that should be followed. Strong encryption algorithms should be followed, and key management policies should be ensured. Input validations, which lead to SQL injection and cross-site scripting, can be one of the vulnerability. Broken authentication and session management can be there. There is no rate limiting, and API security measures are not up to the mark. So to mitigate all these, we should conduct regular application security technique and make use of web application firewalls. Web application firewalls, WAF. WAF is actually a very crucial thing that you should be knowing. Firewall, we all understand what is a firewall. Web application firewall, WAF, it is a security solution that monitors, also filters, also it blocks the malicious traffic which is coming to the web application and going from the web application, right? I'll repeat it. WAF is a security solution that monitors, filters, and also blocks the malicious traffic to and from a web application, right? It protects the web applications that we are using from threats like SQL injection, XSS, and DDoS attacks by analyzing the HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, those kind of requests, and application of the security rules. So it's WAF. The main functionalities of WAF, or the key functions we should say of WAF, are filtering of the traffic, protection against the common attacks, real-time monitoring by detecting and keeping track of the logs of the suspicious activities, and there can be any customized security rules as well. So WAFs can be cloud-based, they can be hardware-based, or they can be software-based as well. Any of the types can be there. Anybody is aware of the DDoS attacks, distributed denial of service attacks? So it actually is a kind of cyber attack in which multiple devices which are compromised overwhelm a target server or a network or a website with so much excessive traffic that it causes it to slow down, or it might become completely unavailable. Distributed denial of service attacks, it has certain types. DDoS attacks can be of many types. One of them could be the volume based attacks, that the server or the target is flooded with massive traffic massive ICMP messages. Another type of DDoS attacks can be the protocol attacks. The network is the weaknesses in the network are compromised. And another type can be application layer attacks, like flooding of the HTTP. Right, and to avoid these kind of vulnerabilities, the mitigation mechanism for mitigating these vulnerabilities, we should have some rate limiting, that this much amount of traffic at this particular rate, there should be some limit on the excessive traffic. The excessive traffic should be restricted. Traffic should be filtered by making use of firewalls or WAF, the web application firewalls. There can be many cloud-based solutions as well, like Cloudflare. And if you are aware of AWS, there is the concept of AWS Shield. There is a service by AWS with name AWS Shield, which prevents DDoS attacks. So these type of attacks can actually cause a significant downtime. There can be financial losses. So it is very necessary to have robust security measures. Another is the insider threats and social engineering. Phishing and spear phishing attacks. The very common of these insider threat. So is anybody aware of this phishing attack? Phishing attack is a kind of cyber attack where the attacker is going to deceive the individual into revealing the sensitive information, such as the username is asked, password is asked, or financial details are asked. And the attacker poses as a legitimate entity. You must be reading all such stuff on social media, on any newspaper and all. So those are very common phishing attacks that happen on a day-to-day basis. And there can be many forms of phishing otherwise also. In e-form also, emails can be phished. You also must be getting fraudulent emails, right? Impersonating trusted sources, like you will assume the email is from a bank or any social media platform. So those are common email phishing things which are happening on a very large scale. Another can be spear phishing. So these are kind of targeted attacks on certain specific individuals or organizations, you can say, by sending personalized messages to specific individuals or organizations. There can be SMS phishing as well. Fake text messages you must be getting, which are containing some malicious links, or they are asking for some personal data, requesting for some personal data. There nowadays, I have heard many cases of voice phishing, in which any random person is making phone call, impersonating as a bank person or a technical support from some known platform or any government agencies. So voice phishing can be done. So how all these can be mitigated? How can we avoid all of these? We should verify, if specifically we talk of email phishing, we should verify the email addresses very carefully. We should not be clicking on any suspicious links, right? Any URLs. We should be quite aware of any URLs before clicking it. And there can be MFA can be followed, the concept of MFA, multi-factor authentication, to add an extra layer of security. Strict access control mechanisms should be followed. Anti-phishing tools can be used, right? Email filters can be used. So there are many mechanisms that are followed to prevent all of this. Phishing attacks are one of the most common types of cybersecurity threats. And government also is putting in lots of efforts in advertisements, in video form, audio form, and otherwise also, so that awareness is generated among all the people who are using it, because everybody might not be a technical user, but everybody should be knowing at least these things so that frauds can be avoided. Okay. uh, Next we'll be discussing about penetration testing tools and frameworks. These tools actually simulate real world cyber attacks to assess the security, the system security. There are many categories of penetration testing tools. There are tools for network scanning. There are tools for exploitation. There are various frameworks. Tools, we have Nmap, which is open source network scanner for mapping network and to detect any open ports that are there. We have Angry IP scanner, which is a lightweight tool which can scan the IP addresses and the ports. We have Nessus for vulnerability scanning to identify security flaws. And if we talk of exploitation framework, we have Metasploit framework. It is one of the most widely used framework. We have Canvas, which is a commercial tool with some automated capabilities, and we have Core Impact, which has certain pre-built exploits, and it is one of the advanced penetration testing tool. We have certain web application testing tools, which are used for assessing the security weaknesses in web applications. Most common is Burp Suite, which intercepts the web traffic, performs the vulnerability scanning, and tests the web security. We have OWASP ZAP, which is open source tool for web application penetration testing, freely available to all. We have Nikto, that actually test for any outdated software or certain misconfigurations that can be there. For password cracking tools, we have Ripper, which is again an open source tool, which is used for offline password cracking. These tools actually help test the strength of the passwords by attempting to crack them. So Ripper is there, Hashcat is there. Various hashing algorithms are supported in this, and it is a very high speed password recovery tool. We have Hydra, brute force testing tool, like a try and test kind of tool. We have various wireless security testing tools to assess the security of the Wi-Fi networks, because most of us make use of those. So we have Aircrack, which is a suite of tool for cracking the WPA keys and for analysis of wireless packets. We have Kismet, which is a wireless network detector, sniffer, you can say, or intrusion detection system. We have Raver, brute force attack on Wi-Fi protected setup. So there are many tools which are specifically which specifically focus on penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. Like I discussed, we have Nmap, Metasploit, Burpsuit, Wireshock, Ripper, SQL Map. These are some of the advantages and limitations. So it depends on our requirement and the amount of testing that we need to do, what are our limitations, and how much security mechanism we need to insert into the system, what are our limitations. By taking into account all of those, we need to identify that which tool is suited for our requirements. For Metasploit, it provides a very comprehensive framework, and the testing is supported, manually as well as in an automated manner also, and it has a large exploit database. But it's learning, if we talk of its limitations, its learning curve is very steep, goes up quickly and goes down. It is detectable by IDS, intrusion detection, and it need to be updated very frequently. So every tool has certain advantages and disadvantages. If we talk of Nmap, this is flagged by firewalls. So a certain amount of networking expertise is required to handle it. But it supports fast network scanning, identifies the network open ports, and it is open source. Its main advantage is that it is open source. Burp Suite is for HTTPS requests interception, automated scanning, but its full version, if we take its paid version, then all the features we are going to get. So there is high resource usage and expertise is required for using it. We have another tool named Wireshark, which is specifically for network packet analysis. And there is support of many protocols. This is advantageous in that sense, but it is going to monitor only the traffic. It is only going to monitor. There is no prevention mechanism. And networking concepts need to be, knowledge of networking concepts should be there. Data analytics capabilities should be there for analysis, because it is only monitoring, right? Then we have Ripper for password cracking. Various algorithms are supported in it. It is open source, and platform portability is there. It is cross platform supported. But again, if we talk of limitations of it, we need password hashes. And since it follows the brute force approach, it is very time consuming. And for strong passwords, it is ineffective. Won't be able to crack. We have SQL Map for specifically an automated tool for SQL injection testing. It support different kind of databases, different kind of DBMS as well. But again, it requires the knowledge of SQL, and it is blocked by firewall, not that much strong in that sense. So based on our requirements, we should be choosing any of these tools. These are specifically for penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. There are certain open source tools which are used in cyber investigation. These are certain 9-10 tools I have mentioned. Kali for Linux is one of them. We have volatility, we have TSK, we have OS int framework, which is there. We have exit tool, we have Yara tool for malware analysis and detection. There can be, the key feature of Yara is that we can customize rule-based malware detection using Yara. Right? So many a times when threat hunting is done and malware analysis is done in forensics area, then Yara is used. For ethical hacking and all, vulnerability assessment, digital forensics, Kali Linux is used. Right? If we need to extract artifacts from memory dumps for forensic analysis and all, then volatility has to be used. For analyzing the network traffic, Wireshark can be used. For any intrusion detections into the network, any suspicious connections into the network, then Wireshark can be used. So depending on the requirement, the key features that the tools are providing, there are certain use cases listed over here. The tool should be used. These are the steps that are followed for performing penetration testing. First is planning and there are 6 steps actually. First is planning and reconnaissance. Second is scanning and enumeration. Third is gaining access, exploitation. Fourth one is maintaining access. Then we have analysis and reporting, and remediation and retesting. So we'll be, for the experimental purposes, we'll be making use of the Kali tool for performing certain commands as well as the implementation of these steps. In the first step, the overall aim is to define the scope and the goal. Means we should be determining the systems, the application, and the network that is to be tested. And we need to identify the type of penetration testing: black box, white box, or gray box. And we should identify potential compliance requirements. As I mentioned, black box, tester has no knowledge; white box, tester has full knowledge of the system; and gray box, partial knowledge of the system. So we need to define the scope and the goal. We need to identify, we need to determine the systems, the applications, and the networks that is to be tested. Right? Information gathering, reconnaissance, the goal is to collect as much information as possible about the target. This can be done in a passive manner or in an active manner. Some of the common techniques are who is lookup, that is going to retrieve the domain registration details. Google Docking, where we can use advanced search queries to find out sensitive information. We'll be seeing that while the performing certain experiments. You'll see that there can be social engineering, gather data from employees via phishing or impersonation, DNS enumeration, identify the subdomains and the email servers. So these are the tools that can be used: Shodan, the Harvester, Maltego, or Google Hacking Database GHDB, which has common search queries used for OS int. Maltego, we can visualize the relationships between the data that is collected, right? Step 2 is scanning and enumeration. The network can be scanned. We can identify the live hosts. By using ping, we can discover certain open ports on the target machine. We can scan for the services that are running on the target machine. For example, HTTP on port 80, all of us know. We can identify different versions of the services that are running, which software versions are running on the discovered ports. We can identify that. We can extract metadata from services so that we are able to identify the vulnerabilities. We can make use of certain automated tools that scan the system for known vulnerabilities which are known. And how are they known? On the basis of the collected information. There can be certain findings which are cross-checked with databases like CVE. It is a database which has some common vulnerabilities and exposures. We can use Nmap, we can use Netcat, Nessus, OpenVS. All of these can be used, right? So we'll be executing certain Nmap commands that will be useful to you. You can have a look at them and have an idea about how things are done. Third step in penetration testing is gaining access or exploitation, you should say. This is the core step where testers actually attempt to exploit vulnerabilities to gain unauthorized access. Right? The name itself is gaining access. We are exploiting the system. We are e- trying to have the access in an unauthorized manner. Right? There can be SQL injections. There can be cross-site scripting, as I mentioned, authentication bypass. Privileges can be escalated also. Like once access is gained, attackers attempt to elevate their privileges to the administrator or the root level. There can be various kernel vulnerabilities. There can be various misconfigured permissions, or password hashes can be dumped so that they can be cracked later on. Right? Third is deploying payload. Payload actually is a malicious script which is executed after an exploit succeeds. Some of the common payloads include reverse shell, which allows the remote command execution. There can be keyloggers, which capture certain keystrokes. The user keystrokes are captured using keyloggers. There can be certain backdoor accesses, right? Metasploit framework can be used, SQL map can be used, burp suite can be used, and Hydra for brute force attacks can be used for deploying payloads. Fourth step is maintaining access to maintain long-term control over the system without being detected. Backdoors can be installed, right? System configuration can be modified. There can be various user accounts which are created in a hidden manner. Security logs can be disabled or they can be modified, right? There can be malicious traffic is encrypted so that IDS is bypassed, or the machines can be compromised to have access into the internal system which is within the network, right? Netcat can be used, Mimicads can be used to extract passwords from memory, Empire can be used. There are certain tools which are mentioned with all of the steps that are to be done. Next step is analysis and reporting. Once our penetration testing is completed, the findings are to be compiled into a detailed report which lists all the findings, the discovered vulnerabilities, the attack scenarios, and which were the methods to tackle those attack scenarios, and the proof of the successful exploits, like how the unauthorized screenshots of various unauthorized access and all. Risk, it should be assessed like low, medium, high, or critical based on the potential impact of the risk. There can be exploitability score as well. right? So based on the rating, like low, medium, high, the pro- proper guidelines can be made for mitigation, right? There can be executive summary. This is just the structure of the report. There can be technical details, impact analysis, like the consequences of each of the vulnerability. There can be certain remediation steps. The report has to be structured in such a way that all these components are included. And the final step is remediation and retesting, so that we can implement the fixes. We can strengthen the network configuration, like we can disable the unused ports, we can enforce strong authentication mechanism, we should train the employees on the best security practices, right, in order to implement the fixes. And a retest can be conducted to see if all the fixes are effective, to check if the previously exploited vulnerabilities are still present. So retest is important, and update the security posture accordingly. These are some of the real world examples that you must have heard of, and how penetration testing could have prevented them. If you any of you remember that there was this Marriott International breach which happened during these 4 to 5 years, and approximately 500 million customer records were compromised in this by unauthorized access to this hotel's database. Personal data like passport number, credit card details, addresses, all these were compromised from the database. If penetration testing, regular penetration testing was done, so this unauthorized database access could have been prevented, right? If there were any response drills for early threat detection and all, it could have been prevented. One of a very famous attack of this sort was Facebook data leaks, which I personally remember. Again, millions of user records were exposed because the reason of this was reported to be a misconfigured third party cloud storage. Third party developers store the Facebook user data on AWS without proper security settings. There were leaked data which included the user IDs, the account names, and the comments that the Facebook users did. So penetration testing in place effectively could have prevented this Facebook data leak if proper security audits and compliance enforcement for third party vendors was in place. Strong data encryption, automated tools should be there to scan for public cloud storage, the exposure, right? Misconfiguration detection could have been figured out. This was a very famous data leak that happened with Facebook, and various legal and financial uh, impositions were there on them. Then Uber data breach happened in 2016. The cause of it was social engineering and ransom payment. Again, the hackers accessed the Uber's cloud-based storage by obtaining the AWS credentials from GitHub, and the stolen data was actually consisting of the names, the email addresses, and the phone numbers. Right? So this was also again a very famous attack. Penetration testing, proper penetration testing could have uh, reduced it if they had the social engineering phishing attack simulations would have been in place, incident response drills and detection mechanism was implemented like this. Okay, there are certain compliance and regulatory standards that the organizations must adhere to various cybersecurity regulations and compliance frameworks. I discussed this ISO 27001 and 27002. There is NIST cybersecurity framework which provides guidelines for managing the cybersecurity risks. PSI DSS we have already discussed, GDPR we have already discussed, HIPAA specifically security rules for protecting sensitive healthcare information we have discussed, right? And we have SOX, the regulations which ensure financial data security and integrity. And in India, we have Indian IT Act 2000, legal framework for cyber security and data protection, which is in place in India. Otherwise also, there should be certain practices that should be followed for performing penetration testing. These are some of the best practices that are to be followed for penetration testing. First one is define clear objectives and scope before the testing is initiated, right? And explicit authorization has to be there from the stakeholders so that legality is ensured. There should be a structured methodology as defined by OWASP, NIST, or PTES. Structured methodology should be followed, right? Thorough information gathering to gather intelligence. We should use a combination of automated tools and manual techniques that are followed for accuracy. A controlled testing approach should be followed, right? So that the risk on the business operation is minimized. And we should have a proper structured report on the findings so that we can retest the vulnerabilities after remediation so that we can know that the fixes that we have done are effective. If we talk of these are some of the best practices that should be followed. And if we want to ensure a systematic and effective penetration testing, the methodologies, established methodologies should be followed by the organizations. And best methodologies, the established methodologies are these. I've listed 4 methodologies here. OWASP testing guide is there, which provides best practices for testing the web applications. We have NIST special publication, which gives certain technical guidelines. We have PTES, penetration testing execution standard, which is a framework that covers all the phases of the testing. And then we have open source security testing methodology manual, which is a comprehensive guideline for security testing. If we are following established methodologies, then we are already in place where legal compliance is concerned, right? So these standard frameworks and practices should be followed while also keeping into mind certain legal and ethical considerations like obtaining permission, ensuring compliance, avoiding actions that cause any kind of loss. And we should protect sensitive information which is collected during testing. We should ensure that it is kept confidential, right? So if I conclude that penetration testing, it actually plays a very vital role in cybersecurity in a sense that it proactively identifies and mitigate the security risks. It helps the organization stay ahead of the cyber threats and protects the sensitive data and also ensure compliance with security regulations. Regular penetration testing is essential for any business organization, any other kind of organization to survive. Right? Before we move to the practical aspect of the talk, some basic experiments we can see. If there is any question, any doubt, anything of this sort, you can please ask me, or should we directly move ahead to the experiment part? Abhishek ji?
So, hello everyone. I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so first we will discuss about installation of VMware and Kali. Here you can see my screen. For Windows and Linux, we opt for VMware Workstation Pro, and for Mac OS, we download VMware Fusion Pro. You should have minimum 4 GB of your RAM in your systems for VMware installation, and for Kali, you should have a 20 GB free space in your disk. So there are so many videos available on YouTube regarding installation guide. This is the one I followed. Uh, Here you can see explanation and of the installation. So with referring this video, you can download VMware Workstation Pro or Fusion Pro. Then after VMware installation, you have to create a new virtual machine in which you have to add Kali. So first you have to download Kali from its official Kali Linux website. There are so many videos available for the Kali Linux also. This is the one I followed from CY Bao Point channel. Now after this, in your VMware, you have to create a new virtual machine. You can see here also it's a button, create a new virtual machine. Here you had to add your Kali downloaded ISO file. Then now let's move forward about reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is a process of collecting publicly available info about target systems. So there are so many web tools and Kali tools for gathering information. First we will look at web tools. Can you see who is domain? First, we have dnsstuff.com. You can write dnsstuff.com on your web, Chrome, or whatever you use. Here, you have to visit this one, which is whois.com. Then you just simply enter your domain or your IP address. For example, we enter microsoft.com, search. It will show you the information regarding domain information, registrar information, and other details. Next, we have Netcraft. Netcraft is also used for information gathering. It is also a web tool. It identifies server types, SSL certificates, and historical data about domains. I just searched here for our college website, which is ncuindia.edu, and it shows me 6 results. The different websites linked with this main website, like nculms.edu, MyCampus, NCU Helpdesk, etc. Then another we have yougetsignal.com, where you can check reverse IP domain lookup, tracer root, and whois lookup. Like if I go for what is my IP address, it will show me my system's IP address. This is my system's IP address. Then I can go for for further things like network location tool. It will show my location. Like here my IP address has been entered. I just have to click on locate. Right now it's currently showing unavailable. Maybe there is some issue, but it shows me the geolocation of my, like I am in India, and yeah, it's okay. Country is India, city is New Delhi, latitude, longitude, and everything. Geolocation you can get from it. These are the web tools. Okay, we have web tools which focus on OSNT also. Like we have I been, PWNEG. You can see here, the website is haveibeenpwnet.com. You just have to write your email address. For example, my email address. And it will check that if your email was a part of data breach or not. So it shows good news, no data breach, no breached accounts. So my email is safe, there are no data breaches. Then these are web tools. Now we will talk about Kali tools. Is my screen visible to you? Is the Kali screen visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just have to enter my password, Kali password. While installation, you have to create your username and password also. I had done some research. Like first tool I have done mxtoolbox.com. Actually, Kali is a slightly slower. So the thing is, you need only patience. It's slightly slower software. So I have done it already. First, I have done for mxtoolbox.com, which provides email server diagnosis, blacklist checks, and DNS record analysis. So I here entered our university email, ncoindia.edu, and just mx lookup, and it will show me the host name, IP address, and the test, their result, and all. I can like take example of google.com. And it will show me the test. All the tests are good, like no errors and something. And this will provide me the information. Second, we have IP2 location. The site is IP2 location. Here you can see ip2location.com. Here you just have to write your IP address. For example, this was the IP address of mine. I searched, and you just have to look up and it will show you geolocations. Like region is Haryana, city, coordinators of city, local time, everything. It will show you the proper geolocation data. Then we have another tools also, which is IP tracker and weaponizers. Then like you have so many Kali tools and so many web tools for gathering information. You can opt for anyone. You can also search them on Google. They will show you so many tools. Then further, we have Kali tools which are CLI based. Like, let me show you CLI terminal based tools. We have, this is our terminal. First, we have the Harvester. The Harvester is a CLI tool which gathers emails, subhosts, and domains. The syntax is the harvester, D Microsoft.com, L 500 B Google. It means the harvester is the command which starts the tool. D Microsoft is like you have to write D and then your target domain, which whatever it is, maybe google.com, microsoft.com, or whatever. L500 limits the entries to 500. You can change your entries, and B Google is our search engine that we are using Google search engine. Then it will show you the emails, hosts, subdomains, and IPs. Then second we have dig command. Diggoogle.com ns I have used here. Dig command retrieves detailed DNS records. In dig is the command which starts the tool. Google.com is my target domain, and ns will show you name server records. So here are the name server records. And secondly, we can use dig google.com AA, which shows IPv6 address records. Or we have google.com mx also. Mx shows you mail exchange records. Then we have further Nmap commands. Nmap commands, which are an open source tool. Nmap is an open source tool which discovers live hosts and open ports and identifies services running on the system. First, we have to download ZenMap. You have to do this only on Kali. Kali, you can go on Firefox, just you have to write ZenMap, and first you have to download ZenMap, whatever your system is, Linux, Mac OS, Windows. Then after that, running for checking that it has been downloaded, you first run the command nmap version, which will show you the version of your nmap downloaded. That means your nmap is currently working and it's downloaded. Then we have so many nmap commands which we use. First, I'm using nmap, and then I have to write IP address with whatever I want to see. So nmap IP address is the basic command which scan for open ports. So it will show me the host is up, not shown, and ports and IP address and host up. Then I have done nmap p 1000 to 1200, and then my IP address. First we have the syntax, and then we have to write IP address. It scans the range of ports. So it will scan between 1000 to 1200 ports. Then nmap -f, which is for fast scan, quick scan. We can do quick scan. There are so many other commands also, like nmap a, which is for aggressive scan. Aggressive scan provides you better information. And there are so many commands like nmap sa for acknowledgement scan, or nmap st IP address for TCP connect scan. You can Google them and try it on your Kali. Then we have Google docking. Does anyone know about Google docking? Okay, let me tell you. So Google docking is an advanced search queries engine, search queries which are used to extract specific info from Google's indexed data. Like for first, I will type in title admin login, which will find pages with admin login in title. Like you can see here, these are the all pages with admin login title. Okay, if like I have to change admin title to something else, like admin, we can take. So it will show me admin login hai. Admin panel. So it will show me the pages with admin panel. Second, we have in URL, which finds the pages with URL containing the specific word, or we can say anything. Like first we enter password, so it will show me all the pages containing password in their URLs. Or we can like take example of sign up, so it will show us the sign up URLs. Then we have file type. File type is used to search certain files. Like if I go for file type PDF download, so it will show me all the PDFs which I can download. All the file types of PDF file types which I can download. If I go for PDF password, then it will show me all the all the file types which contains password. Yeah. So here are all the password protected PDFs. There are also so many Google docking commands. Like there are no limitations. Web tools, Kali tools, Nmap commands, Google docking commands. There are so many. You can just Google them and try it on. We have one more command in text, CVV. CVV is the main thing I'm searching. Like it will provide me all the pages with credit card details. Like you can see here, CVV number, card security code, etc. So covering all the commands is not possible. So I just show you some examples that how can you download VMware and Kali and basic web tools, Kali tools, Nmap commands, and Google Docking. And there is also a concept of digital footprinting, which is known as tracking online presence and uncovering sensitive data using Google searches. So that's it.
Okay, all right. So if in case anybody needs the documentation and all related to the experimental thing, that can be shared. I'll be in touch with Dr. Abhishek and can share the material if any one of you desire. Right. So in case there are any questions, then you can ask me. One thing I would like to mention here is that whenever any kind of surveys uh, for taking feedback and all for data breaches are conducted, nearly more than 50%, if not exactly, if we say more than 50% of the data breaches are because of the malicious attacks and the system glitches and the human errors that might occur. So the main reason that penetration tests are crucial for any organization's security is that they help the personnel to know how to handle any type of breakdowns that might occur and how to deal with them. So the pen tests are actually kind of an examination to find out the security policies that are followed, the security mechanism that is being followed within the organization is genuinely effective or not. They basically they serve as a fire drill, you can say, for the organization. As a result of the penetration tests, we can have solutions that can help the organizations to not only prevent and detect the attackers, but also to expel such an intruder from the system, because there are various types of attacks that are caused due to the intervention of anybody within the organization. So any which ways, the pen tests help the organizations to also frame up the policies to secure the organization's system more effectively. So penetration testing is quite an important aspect in the cybersecurity domain. And cybersecurity, the importance of cybersecurity, nobody is unknown to this concept. So it is quite an important aspect of our day-to-day life. We need to protect our information. We need our information to be used, integrity to be preserved, confidentiality to be maintained. Right? So cybersecurity, we are in living in the digital age. Cybersecurity is quite important, and as part of this domain, pen tests are specifically very important. So that's all from my side. If anybody has any questions, then please let me know. I'll be happy to answer.
Ma'am, I think there is no question. We can conclude the session. Thank you very much, ma'am.